But at the end of the day, there's nothing magical about infinite banking. It's a bank. Capital must reside somewhere.
There's nothing new. There's nothing magical. Nobody invented anything new here. The business of banking has gone on as long as humans have been on this earth, and the business of banking will go on. Banking will go on for our lives for as long as people are walking around on this earth.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so jump in then on your story, Nolan, about, you were doing insurance the conventional way, though, getting started. So what do you remember? How do you reflect on the conventional, insurance business now, and then jump into that transition of IBC? Just fill in that leg of the journey for us.
Okay. So we moved to Texas, and in order to move to Texas, I had to leave my position at the bank insurance agency, and like I say, I was doing well there, but I don't know, I was willing to do it because I just felt like it was the best thing to do for my family, and so we moved to Texas, and so basically, in order to make that move, I had agreed to just assist my wife in her business. My mother-in-law was still working at the time, and um, and then of course we had this horse business going on. So basically, to facilitate the move, I decided, okay, we'll try to ramp up the horse business, move into Texas. That'll really help. Um, I'll assist in the back office of my wife and my mother-in-law's business. This will be great. New adventure, new things to learn. I was all in. So we moved to Texas. I left my position, and I'll never forget walking into my manager's office and saying, here's the deal, we're moving. So, I didn't have to give a 2 week notice, but here's my 2 week notice, and I think she was pretty surprised that I was doing that because I was doing pretty well there. Anyway, we moved to Texas. We've got the horse deal going. We're raising some horses and selling some horses, and everything's great. Life is great. It's warm in Texas. Everything's good. But so I'm kind of, um, I'm kind of working the back office of my wife and mother-in-law's business. So I'm taking care of the taxes. I'm taking care of all the numbers, And so I've got I've got more time to really think about our cash flow and our taxes and all of that. And I just felt like um, there's something fundamentally wrong with our financial system. There's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a better way to invest money. And coming from the banking business and the insurance business, I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something. There's didn't know what it was. So I'm searching, right? I'm searching for something and I don't know what it is. That's a interesting position to be in, to be looking for something that you don't know what it is that you're looking for, but you're looking for something. And so it literally was a Google search. I don't remember the exact how and why, but I literally came across infinite banking concept through a Google search. Started reading some articles online about it, and there, you go out there to the World Wide Web, and I don't care what the subject is, there's good, bad, and ugly about everything. So I'm reading the good, bad, and ugly about the infinite banking concept, but it's very, very intriguing to me. I read plenty of bad articles about it too, or articles, really condemning it, but I read some good ones. But it definitely just piqued my curiosity, so I just kept reading, and came across the Nelson Nash Institute, and then here I'm in Pilot Point, Texas, just north of the Dallas Fort Worth area, and so that's how I found James Nethery, um, because he was the closest authorized practitioner near me. So I call up James Nethery and just start asking him all these questions about the infinite banking concept. So that was my introduction to the infinite banking concept. And what I find interesting about that is, and I've really seen it now, you know, you don't find IBC until you are looking for it. You know what I mean? You're literally, it can be right in front of you. It was here. I was in the insurance business selling life insurance. It was right in front of me, but I wasn't looking for it, so I couldn't. You can't see the forest through the trees sometimes, and so that's what happened. I finally was in a position or stage in my life where I was looking for it. I didn't know what it was, but I was looking for IBC. Didn't know that exactly that it was IBC that I was looking for, but I was looking for something, and IBC appeared, and that's here I am today.
I love it. So I know that you would appreciate this scripture that comes to my mind, which is "Seek and ye shall find." You know what you said. What I wrote down was, "There's got to be a better way," and you've heard since people say that exact same thing. I've heard people since my exposure to infinite making, people say the exact same thing. So that yes, I agree wholeheartedly. That state of being of searching is going to lead you to something. It's going to lead you to more information. If you're seeking, you're going to find more of whatever that thing is. That's just a principle. So I agree. And oh man, you're just making me think about some conversations with people where, they think a certain thought about, and we kind of touched on this the other day in the roundtable conversation. I feel like they've been exposed at some level, so there's some level of interest, right? But again, at the end of the day, the driver, the motor, the engine behind somebody's discovery of infinite banking, it really is their own searching. It's not, it's not me trying to convince anybody. It's not me trying to twist anybody's arm. I'm not going to do it for one thing, and I can't do it for another, So seek and you shall find. That's what I heard. So I think that's so interesting that a Google search led you to infinite banking. You were just open. And not only open, but you were pursuing it. And I told you, I think that your story is so interesting because it's so very different from mine. You were actively pursuing something that you didn't know what it was, whereas I was kind of blindsided by, not blindsided because I was invited to see a presentation is what it was. So I didn't know what I was getting ready to see other than I'd heard the title, Become Your Own Banker. I was like, okay, that sounds great. But I was just at an open time of life as well, right? But I wasn't actively, because I didn't know to look for it, and you didn't know what you were looking for, so that part of it's really interesting. But you found the NNI, the Nelson Nash Institute, which I love, and I love everything that they're doing right now by releasing, more content of Nelson himself speaking that's not been released yet, and it's coming out now, and that's just so cool for me because I never got to personally meet Nelson. And then all the interviews of people that personally knew him and worked with him, I love and appreciate that. James, I've listened to his podcast, Banking with Life podcast, for years and years and years. He gets to tout that he's got the longest standing podcast, right, on infinite banking, which is really cool. So tell me, if you can go back to that frame of mind, then you Googled this, you found this, you read the good, the bad, the ugly. What did you get right away? What did you not get right away? What did you like right away? What did you maybe hold a different view on right away? It's like, that part can't be true. Anything there?
The first thing that stood out to me, and it's still to this day, is the foundation of my IBC journey. The fact that, see, I was actually doing IBC before I knew what IBC was. I was doing the CD method. I was always a very good saver, and so I would save up my money, buy a CD at the bank. I was constantly checking those CD rates, and then I would take a loan using my CD as collateral to go buy something because I loved seeing that balance in my. I'd leave it in my checking account for a while, and I just loved to see the balance there. Then I would buy the CD because I just loved. To me, that was real. That was my money. I didn't want to let go of it, and so it was worth it to me to buy the CD, pay the loan interest in the loan, and you have to pay a documentation fee to take a loan out using your CD as collateral. But it was worth it to me because I felt like I still had my money that way. So I was doing that already. So now I read Becoming Your Own Banker, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you mean I can put my money into this policy and I can earn a dividend, but I can still use my money at the same time? That's what I've been searching for my whole life. That's what I knew was missing in this financial system. I want to be able to have my cake and eat it too. And that's what the infinite banking concept does for you. I like to tell people you can literally have your cake and eat it too. It really is possible. We've just kind of grown up not knowing that was possible and just kind of accepting the fact that you have to go to the bank and borrow the money, and you have to give up control and you have to give up the earning potential on that money. This is what you have to do. So I read the book and I'm like, the light bulb, confetti explosion, alarm bells were going off. That's really out from that point. I was in. I'm like, I I knew it. I knew there was something better, and this is it. So 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 I called James, and well, I mean, I called James. He's like, read this book. So I read Becoming a Maker. I call him back, and I'm like, I want a policy. I want to buy it. Get me a policy. I couldn't get a policy fast enough. I really couldn't. I remember specifically telling James on the phone, I want a policy, and I want to be able to put as much money into it as fast as I possibly can. That was it. I'm like, what? Do it. So I bought a policy on myself, bought a policy on my wife right away, and I had some cash saved up in the bank, like I do. So we designed it so I could put all that money into the policy fairly quickly, and then have this ongoing premium payment, and that was the part that yeah, it's so exciting to think about putting this money in the policy and being able to use it. But then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I've got that premium payment due every year now, and the first few years was kind of fun because I had the cash saved up for that, of course, so that was easy. And then all of a sudden, okay, now the rubber meets the road, and I have to discipline myself to continue making that premium payment. So that part, I'm still, that's a lifelong journey. We have to constantly discipline ourselves to continue paying premium. Now, it's easy to do, especially as that policy gets seasoned and you see, you pay X amount of premium and you get a lot more cash value. So it's fun to see those numbers, and that helps. But there is a learning curve that takes place there, and it requires a lot of discipline to continue making that premium payment, because the premium payment continues, and then okay, I've got this cash value, and I can take a loan against that and finance things, but now I've got to repay that loan, and so all of a sudden, things get pretty real here. I've got this premium payment, and I have a loan repayment at the same time, so it does require. I thought I was a pretty disciplined person, but that was a real test. The first time I took a policy loan and had to discipline myself to pay it back. It was an interesting. I just remember that very well. It in theory you think, oh yeah, no problem, I'll do it. But when push comes to shove, it's an interesting experience. You find out just how much discipline you really have.
I love it. Okay, so let me ask some things. I had three things. I'd written two of them down, but then I didn't write down the third one, which was the last one.
We'll go with two.
Oh, I wish I could recall it though. It was so intriguing to me. Okay. Well, I know what it was. So you were doing banking in a fashion, and like everybody does. Again, we're talking about banking is just a function. It exists. It looks differently, perhaps. Most people are doing it conventionally. Some people level it up and start doing something more creative, we could say more interesting, which would be, say, the CD method, right? So I guess my curiosity there is, and you say what you want, don't say what you don't want. You're building up money in your checking account, which, number one, right out of the gate, makes you a winner, right? You beat Parkinson's law. You're not, seriously, like that's going to be a point of inspiration for a lot of people. If they just learn to put money in a checking account, Nolan, you know this. Not everybody does that, right? The natural tendency is to spend all that we earn. So if you beat Parkinson's law and you do just put money and keep money in a checking account, you're going to win financially in comparison to your peers, right? But let's go to the next level to where you would build up a certain amount in that checking account, and then you're saying, well, it's time for me to pull the trigger on another CD. So I'd go get another CD, right? So I'm curious then, when you would leverage a CD, which is a big aspect, leverage, and maybe we'll talk some about that, having assets that you can leverage. Now, some are obviously more optimal than others. There's a better entity to leverage on than a CD, which is the whole life policy. But I'm curious, what did you use that money for when you would take a loan against your CDs? What were you? Was that lifestyle? Was that investments? Was that business? And again, share what you want, but I'm curious, and then I'm going to walk over into the infinite banking.
All of the above. I really call it lifestyle, but what I mean by lifestyle is you might need a new car. You might just simply want a new car. Maybe you just want to trade for a new vehicle. Maybe an unexpected expense comes up that you weren't planning for, and so you weren't necessarily saving the money specifically for it. So so having a CD available to borrow against was always important to me for that unexpected expense, or maybe that unexpected investment opportunity. So I guess having capital or access to capital was always important to me. I guess I really understood the importance of that, and I suppose that came from my experience working at the bank, and I was a loan officer, ag loan officer, so I worked with a lot of farmers, and I just really understood, the value of collateral. And if you have enough collateral, you can get a loan for just about anything as long as the collateral is good enough. In the banking business, in the lending business, we talk about the 3 C's of lending. It's collateral, cash flow, and character. So as a loan officer, I'm evaluating those 3 things and using that information to determine if I can approve the loan or not. So collateral is very important. You can't have too much collateral, just like you can't have too much capital. So yeah, I'm kind of doing this CD method, but I'm just using it to finance my life, really. And it was just a nice way to to do that for me. Now, like you say, the saving up money, buying a CD is one way to do it, but a way more efficient way to do it is to save up the money, put it into a dividend-paying whole life insurance policy, because that CD is going to pay you a little bit of interest, but that dividend-paying whole life insurance policy is going to pay you a lot of dividends. So yeah, it's really changed my life now, for the better. Having that cash value available to collateralize and finance my life, it brings a lot of brings a lot of peace to my life, and also brings a lot of opportunity. You're able to do things. Maybe you want to go on a vacation, and like I say, I grew up very conservative and whatnot, and I think that's a good thing, and I think it's good to be conservative. But the fact of the matter is, I've kind of gotten into on my vehicles. I trade every 3 years. We're in the horse business, so I have a truck. We pull a trailer, and sometimes we drive long distances. So it's important to me to have a very reliable vehicle, a very reliable truck, because we're driving across the country. I trade that every 3 years because I just love being within that 36,000 mile warranty. It just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So I'm able to do that because I have easy access to capital. And, maybe it's not the smartest thing financially to trade that often, because obviously, there's depreciation in vehicles, but that's okay because I'm the banker and I make the rules. So I can do that, and it works very well for my life.
I love that. So that's the first time that you've shared that part of your lifestyle with me, which I love. It's not the first time, though, that I've heard you use that peaceful word. And I believe that you had even said to me on the phone the other day that your wife noticed something about that, and you said something along those lines. So I don't want to say it for you, but what was it she noticed once y'all started infinite banking?
She noticed that I became a happier person, and I became happier, easier to be around, easier to live with, probably because I had this inner peace. And that inner peace came from just less stress, not having to stress about money, finances, um, knowing that I've got this capital behind me for that unexpected expense. It changes your life. It really does. And also knowing um, I don't have to I don't really have to ask anybody for a policy loan. I log into my online portal and I just click policy loan. I'm not really asking. I'm telling the company, here's my cash value as collateral, send me some money. So that's a very liberating feeling, and that adds another level of peace and happiness in your life, having the ability to do that. And we talked earlier about the people that work at the bank are not bad people. I was a loan officer. I really wanted to help people, but oh man, one of the hardest things about my job as a loan officer was having to say no. People come in, these poor people. They're good people. They mean well, but they might not qualify for a loan, or they I might have to charge them a higher rate because of because of the loan policy and whatnot, and I would feel bad about that. Or a lot of times you'd have to just simply say no if the cash flow wasn't there to repay the loan. You'd have to turn people down, and that was always hard to do because you want to help people, but I did learn that sometimes saying no was actually helping people, believe it or not. Um, but to do it the infinite banking way, um, I don't have to go to a loan officer and ask for money. I just it's just a click of a button. Now, um, like I say, I do have to repay that policy loan. Everyone has to repay their policy loans. But you have that flexibility to do it. That that brings in a whole nother level of peace as well. So the beauty of a policy loan, you're the banker, you create the repayment schedule. There's everything about it just brings peace into your life. So yeah, my wife definitely noticed that. As my study of infinite banking got deeper and continues to go deeper, I just become a happier and happier person every single day.
I love that, and it's so real world. That's been mentioned in some conversations here recently. In that roundtable series, we got onto the topic at one point of marriage and money and divorce and stress and all those aspects that your wife got to realize the good side, where you do have the control and where you do have the flexibility and where you do have the collateral and you do have the access to capital and all those different aspects that you were mentioning right there. And they're all worthy of mentioning, I believe. But the real life impact of, oh, you're a little more laid back now. Awesome, right? And
You're a little more fun now.
oh me, you've made me laugh out loud, Nolan.
Life does that to us. I can remember being 18 years old, and I miss those days because I had so much energy. But you don't have very much stress because there's just you know you don't have any responsibility. And I remember being 18 and just I wanted to grow up and I wanted responsibility. Then all of a sudden you do grow up and you get responsibility and you don't want it anymore, right? And life tends that it does that to you. It tends to kind of beat you down. The world will beat you down if you let it, um, because these responsibilities come and the stress comes, and it can kind of just slowly beat you down over the course of your life. And financial stress is probably a big one for everybody, because money is important. We have to live. We have to eat. We also live in this world where we feel like we have to, have a certain amount of fun too. You're not being an American if you don't go on a vacation once in a while, or it is a little bit of the keeping up with the Joneses, and that creates this financial stress. And all of a sudden, we might not. It can change us, and maybe we're not the best version of ourselves because we're worried about where's the money going to come from. Am I going to be able to afford this house that I'm living in? Am I going to be able to afford my kids' sports activities or whatever it is? Um, and so to have a way to relieve that stress, um, it's such a wonderful, amazing feeling that I feel everyone needs to feel this. You really do, because it's wonderful.
Everyone should experience it for themselves, right? Well,
Correct.
I'll tell you what. You, I want to tell you a few things. Where to start? My goodness. I think we should talk about in a future roundtable. So this is me going ahead and inviting you and letting everybody else know. Be looking for this, okay? Next time you're in on a round table with me, let's talk about those 3 C's that you gave us that banks use as a filter of, okay, you're looking at character, you're looking at cash flow, and you're looking at collateral. I think it's a worthwhile conversation. I'd like to talk about that in a couple of different perspectives. So let's table that.
That could be a whole conversation by itself.
So let's do that, is what I'm saying. If you'd be willing, I'd love to have you on and be there when we have that one. The other thing was I'd love to talk more about that learning curve of paying premiums that you mentioned. I'd love to talk more about that additional layer of understanding where, okay, when you do wrap your mind around paying premiums long range, but then there is also this other part of, well, I've taken policy loans, and then there's the loan repayment, and what does that look like, and what's going on in between my ears for that, right?
That's another great conversation, and I think a very important conversation, because I think that's where maybe you've heard about infinite banking and maybe you're thinking about it, but that can be a big hang up. It was for me. I was scared to death to take a policy loan for the first time because it's a loan and I have to repay it. The insurance company's gonna charge me interest, and I have to repay it, and so it was scary to do that. Um, and But it's just like anything. Any change is always difficult. Once you take a policy loan or two, and then you get kind of comfortable with it, and you get to liking it actually, and sometimes you don't even know for sure how you're going to pay that policy loan back, but all of a sudden, that policy loan is, as long as you're an honest banker and have a little bit of discipline, that policy loan does get paid back, and then it's like, oh, that actually wasn't as hard as I thought. Let's do that again. And that's when life starts getting more and more fun, is you realize there's opportunities that you can take advantage of that you couldn't have before.
Okay, so let me dig in there. You took loans against CDs, so this might be a personality thing, right? So when you would take a loan, was there still some hesitation there, or should I, or okay, right? So that's probably just a personality thing. So now give us the end result. You made loans against CDs, this thing that you'd set up, this system that you just put together, right? And now you've taken policy loans. More about that difference there.
Well, it was hard to save up to buy that CD, and then it was hard to I would take the loan against the CD because in my mind it was the best way to take a loan or whatnot. Um, but it was still hard to repay the loan, and then I didn't really realize it at the time, but all that interest was going to the bank, and so I was losing that um, income, that revenue, that money was just gone from my life forever. And so no wonder it's this uphill battle through life, because the system is not designed in our favor. And but I thought it was the only and the best way for me to do it, so I continued doing it. Now, IBC comes into my life, and it's literally the same process, except that I benefit so much more financially, and I become wealthier because I'm recapturing that interest that I was paying to the bank. I have less stress because I don't have to go to the loan officer at the bank to get the loan. If I can't make the payment one month, I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to worry about a late fee, or there's just so much less to worry about. So there, when I talk about wealth, I'm not just talking about financial. I'm talking about this peaceful feeling, this wealth of life that I'm experiencing. Um, and and that policy just gets better every year. That dividend gets bigger every year, and so um, I think for people like I read the book and bought my first policy fairly quickly. Um, but it's not until you get your first annual report, or the first few annual reports, really, once you really start seeing your policy working, the numbers on your policy, your name is the insured, you see your cash value, you see your death benefit, you start seeing those numbers. There's some illustrations in the book, but boy, it's so much more powerful when it's your policy and you see how that works, and you see how it's benefiting you. That's when it really changes your life, I think.
Right. Yeah. My strongest recommendation in this whole conversation for sure is going to be go look up this book, read it for yourself, be proactive like Nolan was. Go read the thing for yourself. There's an example in there where Nash is talking about the differences between paying cash, using a CD, infinite banking. He breaks it down. You need to see that for yourself. Using a CD and being able to leverage it had some advantages over just a hole in the ground. Right, Nolan? Just money in a hole in the ground. A CD is going to have advantages, but when you realize what really all is available, it's a game changer.
And I think, like I say, I worked at a bank for several years. I have a master's degree in business administration, but this book right here taught me more about money and how it works than any college class I've ever taken, any book I've ever read. I've learned more about money right here, and it was right in front of me, but I just couldn't see it. Um, but I feel like I have received such a incredible financial education studying the infinite banking concept, a better education than I received uh, in any of the colleges I attended.
Incredible. And you've been doing infinite banking. We didn't really put too much of a timeline to it, but for several years. So when did you find infinite banking? How many years ago was that?
Let's see. I believe I bought my first policy in uh, 2015. We moved to Texas in 2013, so I guess I should look it up.
2015, 2016. Awesome. Yeah, and that's right at the same time that I did. So this will be my 10th year paying premium in my oldest policy, and I got that policy in 2016 myself. And you're right at the same timeline. I remember. So incredible. Listen, I've got rapid fire questions that I want to ask you, but I'm trying to keep a gauge on the time. But I want you to be able to say anything on 2 points. Anything that you for sure would like to. No, so I'm not trying to rush you. You went from practicing the concept to going pro with the concept. You should tell people about that. They should be able to hear about that. And remember, I mean, this is going to be for people that'll eventually work with you. What would you like them to know about that? Because sometimes people even ask, a head will stick up and they'll say, hey, maybe I want to do something professionally here as well. So speak to that in whatever way that you want. And then for sure, I need to ask you how people can get in touch with you. So talk about that. Anything that you leave people with about practicing infinite banking, and then tell about your own professional transition.
Yeah, right. So about my policy 2015, 2016, I read the book. I knew it was good. I knew it was a good place to store money. And then I kind of hit it. And I didn't really tell anybody what I was doing. And, part of the reason for that is I felt like I understood it, well enough to do it for myself, but to explain it to someone else, it takes another. I don't care what the subject is. You can understand something, but to explain it or to teach it, it takes a higher level of understanding. So, um, I wasn't 100% sure that this was as good as I thought it was. But I knew it was good. But I guess I just didn't dare really even tell anybody about it for a while. But then I started seeing my policy work, and I'm like, wow, this is as good as this is better than I thought it was. So then I kind of started telling people about it. And what I realized when I started telling people about it is their eyes would kind of glaze over because I'd kind of throw up on them and just tell them everything, and their eyes would kind of glaze over, and they would kind of check out. And so then I was like, this is hard to explain. I guess maybe I understood it easier because I worked in the bank so long, because of my background, my experience, that maybe I had an advantage. So the average person, just doesn't really understand that much about money, and so this is a lot for them to consume. And so I was kind of like, boy, I don't know if I'm smart enough to explain this to people. Even though I loved it myself. I thought it was just the greatest thing, and I thought my enthusiasm would just spread like wildfire. And what I started noticing were people were kind of like, "Oh yeah, that's great, Nolan. That's over my head." And so then I kind of was like, I kind of got like, well, um, maybe I'll just keep this for myself, and maybe it's not worth my time to try to explain it to anybody. I don't know. And so yeah, years went by, and my policy cash values kept growing, and I just every year I look at my annual report and I'm like, man, this is so good. People need to know about this. And I literally woke up one morning and I just I guess I just felt this obligation, that I needed to work harder, do better, become better at explaining the infinite banking concept, because it's just it kind of almost has become my mission in life now. I feel like I've been given a gift, and it's my responsibility to share that gift with others. And so now I don't care how long it takes. I don't care where it takes me. I don't care who you are. If you have a question about the infinite banking concept, I would like to help answer that for you. And if I don't have the specific answer for that, I will go to Jesse. I will find it for you. But I believe in IBC so much, and I believe it's so powerful. It's changed my life, and I believe it can change anyone's life in a very positive way. It's my mission to share it with everyone that I meet from this point in my life forward. So yes, it's very important. Read this book, but also, um, reach out to me, reach out to Jesse, anybody, because you need to do more than just read the book. You need to understand the concept, and that's going to require some help, some coaching. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. And I just now instead of being afraid of teaching IBC, now I'm looking forward to it, and I'm kind of craving it, because it's my way of sharing the gift that I've been giving, and it's my way of helping people. Like I talked about before, all I've really wanted to do with my life is I just wanted to feel like I'm contributing in a positive way to the world, and in a positive way to other people's lives. And I believe that teaching IBC is my way to do that.
I love it. Man, the highlights that you've given me are, number one, that life lessons, things that happen in life, can make us ready for good things. Your father-in-law passing, right? And then your willingness to seek is what led you to finding some answers, really neat answers. Who would have known, right? One of the things that I maybe laughed the hardest about in our conversation today was when you said, I knew it, right? Like back when you had said, there's got to be a better way. Like you had said that, and you talked about searching, and then you said, I knew it. That fervor, I know exactly what you're talking about. that was a big highlight for me. Your own personal, use of infinite banking in your lifestyle. You're awakening to your duty, Nolan, to bring this message to people. I love it. So how can people best get in contact with you?
So yeah, I've got a website, Nolan Johnsrud Insurance. Um, I guess that was one part of the story that I maybe left out. But I was in the insurance business in North Dakota, moved to Texas, got away from it. Um, I actually got a couple of years ago. I actually got back into the insurance business, and I started my own insurance agency. And that was part of the awakening where I'm like, okay, I need to share this gift because I sell all lines of insurance. I started my own insurance agency. Um, and so, people are coming to me for their insurance needs, and inevitably life insurance would come up, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, about that. I've got this really cool thing that so that's what kind of triggered this duty obligation feeling. I'm like, I know about IBC, and um, you don't, but you're thinking about life insurance, so I need to help. So anyway, nolanjohnsrudinsurance.com is my website. You can find all my contact information there. Um, Feel free to reach out at any time. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. I'm very passionate about this, and I just enjoy sharing it. So that's probably the best way to do that.
I love it. I'll definitely put your contact information in the show notes on this episode. And it was the real life demand that led you to, I got this good thing going on in my life. People are asking me, while I'm doing this PNC and this other traditional insurance, they're asking me about this life insurance. Yeah, you need to know what I know, right? So I love getting to have this insight into your experience. There's still so many things that I want to ask you, my goodness, and so many future conversations that I'm willing to have on these topics that we have brought up as well. I think a roundtable is going to be a great opportunity to be able to do that. Tell me this: are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
I'm probably as ready as I'll ever be, so let's do it.
All right. So I told you on the drive here this morning, I was thinking about some that I maybe particularly wanted to ask you that I hadn't asked anybody else yet. So let me right out of the gate ask the one for sure that I knew I wanted to ask. Would you rather, or no, just answer me one or the other. So Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, why? All right, give me that real quick. This is just for me.
I've never watched Star Wars, and I haven't watched all of Lord of the Rings, but just parts of it. But to me, Lord of the Rings, I don't know, that hits a little closer to home. The the good versus evil thing just speaks to me.
Okay. How do you not watch all of them though? I don't understand that. I don't get this. Okay, moving on. Rapid fire. I don't get to know all the answers. I don't guess. I don't. How do you do that? I mean, it could be the worst book. It could be the worst movie, Nolan. I don't know what this means about me, but I have to watch the end of it. I have to know how it ends. I have to see the. I don't know. It's like some people are like, no, I'm not going to waste the next hour of my life. Me, I got to know. I don't know. What's a favorite book? All time favorite book of yours?
There's a book I read when I moved to Texas. It's about the kind of the history of the Comanche Indians. Summer of the Flower Moon. Oh my gosh, I kind of like history too, and Native American history. Summer of the Flower Moon. Excellent.
Okay. How about a favorite quote of yours?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Um, but I guess maybe I'd have to say good old Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly, but carry a big stick.
I love that one. I love that one. How about the most impactful thing that someone ever said to you?
There again, there's been so many things that have been impactful. I can't narrow it down to one. These are tough. I got nothing there.
That's okay. I still haven't released this. My wife. I gave an interview with my wife finally after years and years of being on YouTube, and I asked her that one, and she asked me to skip that one as well. But you never know what answer you're going to get. All right, let me. You talk about how hard these are. I'll give you some easy ones. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
See, there you go. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Oh, that was real close. Look at the question on your face.
Mountains with a beach at the base of them.
Sword or hammer?
Hammer.
Fire pit or movie night?
Ooh, I'd have to say fire pit, but my wife would totally say movie night, and so I'd probably cave and watch a movie with her. But I'd really want to be out there by that fire.
I get that. What a good husband you are. What's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, best pieces of advice. Honestly, this maybe might sound weird, but um, my mother always told me if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all.
That most certainly is a good piece of advice. Thanks, Mom. What's one of the most interesting places you've ever been to?
Most interesting places. Other than North Dakota, I think North Dakota is a very interesting place. I haven't been that many places. I'm not that worldly traveled. Actually, I've never actually left the country, other than Canada, I guess. But that's because I am from South Canada. But most interesting. I guess the most interesting place that I've been in, I think you'll realize this when you go there, Theodore Roosevelt National Park. There's something very special about that place. Nature in its purest form, I think, is a very interesting place to be.
I agree. I am very on board with that answer. What characteristic do you value most?
What characteristic? I guess I would have to probably say honesty or integrity or combination of the two there.
I love it. All right, and here's the last one. I get this one from my boys because they asked me at the supper table one time. So, would you, Nolan, rather be able to breathe underwater or fly?
Fly.
Fly. I love it. Awesome. My boys, anytime that I have an interview, my boys are seeing this, they always want me to fast forward to that question and answer because they want to know what everybody says that I talk with, right? So, man, this has been an absolute pleasure for me. It has from the start since we've just been on the phone and got to meet each other because of Infinite Banking. Like I said, man, I'm going to put your contact information below. I love that you've already been in on a round table. I want to have some more conversations with you. Any last words from you?
No, other than thank you for this opportunity, and it's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed visiting with you, getting to know you, and look forward to the future.
I love it. Appreciate you, man.
Doing things like this, and just you have jogged my memory, and things are coming up, and I'm like, oh, I do have a story to tell. I do have examples to give. And so it's just been really a joy to experience this. So I thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And you do. Everybody's got, and it impacts me from the Bible, right? Like Jesus used stories. He'll say, well, there was this guy, there was that guy. I mean, because it's meaningful to us. So yeah, people that are going to hear about, how you help take care of your mother-in-law, how you move across the country to pursue, something that you wanted to do, how you pivoted in career changes, all these things, they're you, they're not me, they're not anybody else. Yeah, very unique, very worthwhile to get that story out there. Yep, absolutely. All right, everybody. So that was an absolute blast. I'm so glad that we got Nolan on here to tell us his infinite banking story. His contact information will be below in the show notes. If you're already working with him, keep that conversation going. If you connected well with him, reach out to him there. I hope that you learn to live and leave a lasting legacy. Have a great day. Take care.